Chris, I have a stat for you. 33.8. That's the number of points the Panthers are giving up per game. That is, if it keeps up the rest of the year, will be the second worst points per game ever in NFL history, I think, behind the 1966 New York Giants.
So you're saying that in modern football terms, the Panthers defense is historically bad. Is that what you're saying?
It is a big pile of. Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Ready? Let's huddle up.
Let's just do it, okay?
For Panthers Playbook, driven by Carolina Ford Dealers. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Leave your thoughts in the comments section because there's a couple things that we want to hit here in Panthers Playbook. First of all, NFL trade deadline is approaching. We're already seeing a lot of moves across the NFL, and there's a lot of conversation of should the Carolina Panthers move on some players and acquire draft capital and so forth. And also, Bryce Young, should he play sometime soon? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Panthers Playbook brought to you by Carolina Ford Dealers. With the Ford F-150 on your team, it's a game on. See your Carolina Ford dealer today. Chris, let's go to the trade deadline. We've seen a lot of guys already on the move. We've seen a couple wide receivers get traded already with Amari Cooper, as well as Devontae Adams. We've seen a running back and Cam Akers get traded from Houston up to Minnesota. We saw a defensive lineman from Jacksonville get traded to Seattle. So the seal has been broken.
Yeah.
But the question is, where do the Carolina Panthers fall into this, and what should the approach be for Dan Morgan as a general manager? Right now, the way things sit, the Carolina Panthers have 9 draft picks next season in 2025. 9. They have 1 in every single round, and if I remember correctly, an extra 7th and an extra 5th. That's where things currently sit. So 9 picks. When's the last time we could say that happened for the Carolina Panthers? It's been a minute. But I'm also, I have the mindset of, well, we've seen this team trade away great players, and they haven't gotten really much of anything in return. Who's to say it's going to be different this time? I'm kind of torn on this one, Chris.
I am torn on it as well. With the 9 draft picks for next year, it makes me comfortable with where the team currently is, and means that they don't have to make a desperate decision, right? At the same time, though, there are certain things to consider. You have 2 guys specifically whose names keep coming up who are balling out this year. Chuba Hubbard, who, as of this recording, is 3rd in rushing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Diontae Johnson, who I just looked at some PFF stuff. He is the 2nd best at creating space on his routes in the NFL right now.
Yeah, he's playing well.
And those guys are playing well right now. And they're both on expiring contracts. And so if you let them walk, because more than likely, like, are you going to be able to afford them next year?
It's a big question.
There's a lot of things you're going to have to try to move around, some hard decisions, maybe some people to cut, some contracts to try to restructure, a lot of things to consider if you want those guys back, specifically Chuba Hubbard in my mind. And if you're not going to have those guys back, well, do you want to get some value for them and see what's out there? It's really tough because, like, there's so many different chess pieces to think about on the board when you're thinking about this stuff, because it's all about whatever they see their approach as. If you see this year already as we're just trying to get in and implement our system with our core group of guys, we're not worried about the amount of wins. The amount of the wins at the end of the year does not matter. And we are fine with, and we're expecting to pick in the top 5, then trade some guys. If you feel like, no, we can try to win and we need to set winning culture and winning habits right now with the guys that we have, and we're going to try to go for as much as we can and try to continuously improve, and we don't care if we're going to pick at number 1 or number 12 at the end of the year, doubt it'll be as high as 12. That'll be as high as 12. But if we don't care about that, then you keep guys. And so it just depends on which philosophy they're thinking about. And I really don't know where I land on that.
I think this is a big question that Dan Morgan has to answer. And this is also Dave Canales factors into this too, is that who do you want to keep? If you want to keep Chuba Hubbard, approach him about a contract
Yeah.
before the trade deadline. And if Chuba's price is too high, the agent that you're trying to negotiate with, if the price is too high and you feel like, you know what, that puts too much of a strain on us. Also, you got to factor in that Jonathan Brooks is now being on his 21-day window to return from injured reserve or the non-football injury list, and he might be playing sometime soon. Those are things you have to take into consideration. Same with Diontae Johnson. Hey, talk to his agent. What's it going to cost to keep you here? And if the demands are too high and like, no, we can't afford that because we have so many other needs, okay, then I see it. Also, guys like Xavier Woods, for example. Xavier Woods is on an expiring contract. Yeah. If there's a team out there that says, hey, we need a little extra depth at safety because someone's a little bit nicked up, okay, we'll offer a 5th or a 6th round pick or 7th round pick for Xavier Woods, or even a 6th, 7th round pick swap. Okay, that's fine. If you know as Dan Morgan, you're not going to bring somebody back. Then in that case, okay, then I'm okay trading those guys away. But we have seen so often in the past, great players get traded away. The Christian McCaffrey trade, I totally understand. You're going to be in a rebuild. You maximized. But it's also, what do you do with it?
I really don't understand. But, I guess you painted yourself into that corner to where you had to. But you could have prevented that. But keep going.
You could have. But it's all about, what do you do with the picks? Yeah. You can get draft picks. But, for example, go to the 2022 draft for the Carolina Panthers. The only one that's actually contributing is Ike Ekwonu. The only other guy on the roster was Cade Mays, who they cut, and then because of injuries, signed off the practice squad from the Giants. And then Amari Barno's hurt because he's dealing with a knee injury that he suffered at the end of last season. Go to the 2023 draft class. Bryce Young's been benched. Jonathan Mingo's already been passed by an undrafted rookie in Jalen Coker. DJ Johnson's been non-existent. And then you have Chandler Zavala, who's been a depth piece on the offensive line, and Jamie Robinson is one of your special teams player.
Who's been pretty good.
He has this year. But
Chandler Zavala so far is probably the best draft pick from that year.
Probably. But that's where we are.
That's where we are. That's where we are.
Now, Dan Morgan in this draft class of 2024, we're still waiting to see on Jonathan Brooks what he can do. Xavier Legette has shown some really good flashes, and I think you and I both really, really like what we've seen so far. Jaden Crumedy still kind of waiting to see. Trevin Wallace feels like he can be a dude. Shaw Smith-Wade's starting to get some more.
Looks pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and Jadeveon Sanders probably had his best game this past Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
So there's no guarantee on what draft capital is going to offer you. But it's amazing the position that this Carolina Panthers organization is in right now, because all the draft capital they used to try and get Bryce Young, which obviously has not worked out, and then the salary cap situation this team is in sucks. A few days ago, it kind of flew under the radar. The Panthers restructured the contract of DJ Wanham to save $1.5 million of salary cap just so they can get back under because of all the injury situation that they're dealing with right now.
Yep.
That's the hell of that this organization is in. You're pressed against the cap and you lack talent. The worst spot you could be in.
There's going to be some hard goodbyes. To go back to what you're saying, are there any untouchables on this roster? I would love to keep Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to put that out there. I would love to keep Diontae Johnson.
Likewise.
But they are not untouchables to me. Mm-hmm. It just really depends. But going back to what I was saying, it really depends on what your philosophy is for the rest of the season. Untouchables for me would be any of your rookies.
Sure.
The offensive line and Derrick Brown. And literally, that's it. I'm going to be real. That's it. That's it. Like, those are
even
those,
JC? Okay.
I mean, he's starting to. He had a pretty good game this past Sunday. There's some. He gave up, some touch. He gave up a touchdown.
He did.
He gave up some passes. We saw some of the things that we haven't liked from JC this year in Sunday's game, but he did grade well for PFF. But that that's not everything. But he did grade pretty well for most of the game.
There were some plays There's some plays he made that don't show up in the stat sheet, like a couple times, like wouldn't let even like Kyle Pitts get off the line of scrimmage free, like he's jamming guys.
You pointed out to me he's good at jamming guys right there on the line. Yeah. But other than that, like I'd say, like if you feel like you can get something more draft capital or whatever, and you can get some of these rookies in here next year who are going to be a lot cheaper. Because think about it. If J.C. Horn balls out this year, and of course he has the 5th year, he's going to want to have some money for a contract. Now, we don't have to worry about that for a little bit. Maybe they start talking about it, at the end of this season. We'll see what happens. Maybe they say, hey, look, you've been mostly injured, so we can offer you this here now. You can sign it to go ahead and lock in some stability, or maybe you can just bet on yourself and see what happens, but you can go ahead and try to lock this in now. Hopefully maybe that happens and he decides okay, let me just go ahead and get that stability. Chuba, you're gonna have to pay, or I was even thinking he's somebody that you could put the franchise tag on.
But that get really expensive. I don't know if the Panthers can afford that.
It can, but also I'm expecting some people not to be here next year. Maybe Shaq Thompson. You mentioned Xavier Woods. Maybe Ian Thomas. There's some other people who have maybe Johnny Hecker. I don't think Eddie Piñeiro's gonna be here. Maybe Taylor Moton.
Moton, his contract, I think he has a $31 million cap hit. And if you just release him in the offseason, you're going to save $18 million.
There's so many of those guys where they are. I would rather not get rid of Taylor Moton, but if you're just looking at who's eating up some of that cap that you need to save, Josh Nijman isn't as good as Taylor Moton, but he did a decent enough job in this past game. So those are things to think about. Maybe even Austin Corbett, if Brady Christensen continues to look good, because Austin Corbett, remember, cost them some money too when they picked him up from the Rams.
I think he has void years on his contract, so I think he'll be a free agent after this year anyway. I don't see him coming back based off of the injury history recently and the price tag.
So there are guys that you can for sure decide to part ways with to save some money if you wanted to keep somebody like a Diontae or a Chuba Hubbard in some type of way. But also, if a desperate team out there, let's say the Chiefs, are like, look, we want to give you, I don't know, a third and a fourth, or a third for Chuba Hubbard, because
I'd take that.
We're down right now. We've got 2 practice squad guys who we're using as running backs right now because Isaiah Pacheco is hurt, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is starting to come back from mental health sabbatical right now, and we just need something that's sure. I'd take it. I'd have a hard time saying goodbye to Chuba, because he is what I think a Carolina Panther, like an old school Carolina Panther, should be. But man, at this point, you really do need to rebuild, and you need to start thinking about all your options.
There's a lot out there. I honestly, again, I want Chuba to stay. And honestly, the way we saw Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, the way they were used this past Sunday, I was like,
beautiful.
That's what I want with Chuba Hubbard and Jonathon Brooks. That's
beautiful.
That's my dream. That's my dream, where they each get 18 touches a game and over 100 yards each.
Bro, you know this, but for the people who don't know this, I've been saying this since Christian McCaffrey was there. I've been saying, I hated the way they used Christian McCaffrey. There always should have been a great 1-2 punch. And they had it, that one year with Mike Davis. And there's a couple other guys that they sprinkle in there, but they only really used Mike Davis and Christian was hurt. It would have been cool to have that 1-2 punch. Of course, Christian is the guy, but then you got another guy who's, a completely different style runner, different body type, who can give you a different look. And the way they use their running backs in Atlanta, I think is definitely the perfect way to kind of look at it. And you could possibly have that with Chuba and Jonathon and Brooks. And that's the reason why I want to keep Chuba. Honestly, the running back to trade is the one that you paid already.
Oh yeah, Miles Sanders. Oh yeah.
So we're talking about trading somebody who's a running back.
Yeah.
Now, again, I like Sanders a lot more this year. As a slot receiver.
Yeah.
But, hey, you can motion him out the backfield. But as far as when Jonathon Brooks is ready, that running back depth chart is Chuba, Brooks, Sanders. That's the one that you can get rid of.
Oh, I'm 100% with you on that. 100% with you on that. But the big question going forward is, What are you doing with Bryce? What you doing with Bryce, Chris? Huh? You playing the guy? There's a lot of people out there that are they're floating out the idea. You know what? If you're losing, you still have to see what you have in him. I know those first 2 games sucked. It was a big pile of that's what it was, Chris. But we all know that at some point this season, at least I feel that Bryce Young is going to get back out there on the field and start a game. I know he had the mop-up time against Chicago, but if you're going to try and trade him this offseason or really trying to give another chance to see, all right, young man, what can you do? I think he's going to play at some point this year, but the question is when? And I think it might be week 13, week 14, maybe. I don't know. It's being floated around out there, and it's I think right now you do stick with Andy because I think Andy's been playing fine. But I think we are going to see Bryce Young at some point, and more sooner than we think.
Yeah. So I think that goes back to the philosophy question. Like, what do you see the rest of your season as? As of right now, no, you don't give it to Bryce. And I saw a lot of that from Panthers fans for some reason after Sunday's loss. And it wasn't on Andy. Yeah, Andy threw 2 interceptions.
Bad pick. Yeah, the bad pick.
The one bad one was the first one. The last one they're trying to come back, and of course you're going to be a little bit more, you're going to take more dangerous shots down the field. The really bad one was when he was trying to force it into Ian Thomas with 3 guys covering him. I don't understand that one. But like that's not enough to bench him in my opinion, because I remember what the offense looked like with Bryce Young at the helm.
Yeah.
And I know what the Panthers have looked like, honestly, like for 3 1/4 quarters of the Atlanta game, that was a competitive game.
Mm-hmm. And it was 28-20 when the Panthers were moving the ball down the field. 28-20 was the score.
Before the pick happened. And I am not sure if Bryce Young can step in right now and make things competitive. Because I'm a little scarred from what I saw the first 2 games of the season. I'm a little scarred, man. And I think he needs a little bit more time. But if you do get down to the fact, like if let's say that we lose through the bye week and you come back after the bye week and you lose a couple after that, okay, season's over, pack it in. We're going to have 1 win this season. Put in Bryce and let's see what we got. Because that could help us make our decisions for the NFL draft. I am still not necessarily out on Bryce Young. If they decide to get rid of him in the offseason, I'm fine with that also. But I'm also fine with the idea that Bryce Young could come back next year as a third-year player playing better with an established offensive line, with young, weapons that are starting to step up. I mean, think about how young his weapons are right now. Jadeveon Sanders stepping up, Jalen Coker stepping up, Xavier Legette stepping up, Jonathan Brooks, hopefully we'll see him soon. If they keep Chuba Hubbard, that's amazing. Like, it looks good as far as the outlook, as far as that is concerned with that. But, yeah, just not anytime soon. Not right now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think it's also here's the side of the fence I sit on that. The reason why I don't think you play Bryce so soon is because what is Andy Dalton giving you? Consistency, right?
And a chance to win.
Consistency. Well, not just a chance to win, but I think it's also good for guys like Legette and Coker and everyone else on your offense to actually have competency at quarterback.
Yes.
Which is something they didn't have the first 2 games. Like, you didn't know what your team really was those first 2 games when Bryce was starting. And then when you put Andy Dalton in, it's like, oh, okay, Xavier Legette actually has a chance to catch a ball. Jalen Coker actually has a chance to catch a ball. And same with Diontae Johnson. Their production in terms of receptions per game, yards per game, touchdowns per game, all that has increased since Andy Dalton has come in. That's just a simple fact. Those are just the numbers. But I feel like the organization does have to give Bryce at least one more shot at some point later on this year.
This is why you don't play Bryce right now. The touchdown pass to Xavier Legette had to be perfectly placed over a defender in the corner of the end zone. Does Bryce Young throw that ball?
No. No, he doesn't.
And we've already seen, we saw him in college in his final year at South Carolina, and we just saw this past Sunday. Like, and I think I tweeted it. Like, that's the reason why you drafted that guy where you did, because you didn't have that contested catch, sure-handed guy that could go up and sky over a defender and grab that thing and come down with it. You didn't have that guy before, and now you've got that guy. And so now you need a quarterback who's going to get that guy the ball and give him a chance, not only place it in the right spot, but just the gumption and the stuff. I don't want to say the other word, to throw that ball. And right now, I'm not sure if Bryce throws that ball.
No.
So that's why I wouldn't play him right now. I don't think he's ready for that. I am open to him still being the guy of the future. Look, I was thinking about this today. You remember how badly people talked about Jared Goff?
Oh, yeah.
Like, literally, like, I think it didn't really turn around until Sean McVay got there. And that was his third or fourth year in the league?
Maybe his third year, maybe even as early as his second. But yeah, Jeff Fisher was the initial head coach. And I think even Jeff Fisher maybe even got fired after his first year of Goff.
Yeah. And I think, like, they were, like, folks were down on Jared Goff.
Big time.
And now he's legit he's probably top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Playing great.
And because you have the right weapons, you have the right system, and you have the right offensive line, right offensive coordinator that believes in him. And so that could be Bryce. And he's only been in the league for a year and a half at this point. He's got time, but at least we can let him sit back and watch behind somebody like Andy Dalton. Again, if he is cut, or he won't be cut because it'll cost him too much. If he's traded somewhere, then okay, I'm cool with it. But if you say, hey, we're going to stick with our investment going forward, I'm cool with that too. We'll see what happens.
We'll see him at some point again this year. The question is just when. But I do know that you can see Panthers Playbook this Sunday after the Panthers take on the Commanders, Chris. So make sure you subscribe. And also, again, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. We'll have an episode for you after we see Jaden Daniels torch this defense.
I was about to say, can I make a confession?
Okay.
I'm scared. SCURRED.
Scared.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because Jaden Daniels, I just, like, when I first saw this on the schedule, I was like, okay, Bryce, year 2.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, year 1.
Okay.
Year 2 of Ejiro Evero. Oh, our defense is about to go there and cause some havoc and cook up. And Jaden Daniels looks better than Caleb Williams, and we saw what Caleb Williams did.
And he's so cook too.
Oh my God!
Hey, you know what? Pay the Panthers defense, and let's get right game for you. Now Caleb Williams. And wrap up on.
And you got Frankie Louvu and Jeremy Chin, who just waiting on the other side. Bro, I've never been this nervous before playing Washington.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. Oh gosh, to think that the top 5 drafted quarterbacks the last 2 years: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. Those 5, you got the one, Bryce, like the one that's kind of like, and you took him first out of all of them.
Jury's still out on Drake May.
Yeah, but I think he'll be good.
Anthony Richardson, though.
Yeah,
I don't know, bro.
You know what's funny?
I don't know.
Up on this. It's funny they talked about the small guy and Bryce Young not being able to stay healthy. Now the big guy
is hurt
to handle all of it, keeps getting hurt. Go figure. Such is life, man.
Yeah.
Such is life.
I don't know. Bryce could possibly turn it around.
Well, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one, though.
It's really, but we know what it is. It's really here. It's not ability. It's not it's not his physical ability. We know it's this.
Oh yeah.
I get so discouraged every time somebody asks him a question about what he's motivated for, and he's like, "I don't have external motivation. I'm motivated by the Lord. Bro, hit the button real quick and hold your. You know,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Praise
Panthers
God.
Playbook
Nothing
brought to you
against
by
you, sir.
Carolina Ford Dealers with a Ford F-150 on
Nothing
your
against
team.
you,
It's
big homie,
game
but you
on.
know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
See you, Carolina Ford Dealer, today. We'll see you on Sunday.